Welcome to Crushing Kayfabe. This is Jason Garish, and hope everybody had a great holiday. Had a real good time with my family, being home with my wife and my 3-year-old, getting to enjoy Christmas with him here in Western Tennessee, which was really cool. Once again, prayers going out to Jim Ross, who's I believe finishing up chemo. Hopefully everything goes well there, and I heard that Don Tony, another podcaster, just had a recent procedure he came through and did well with. So hopefully everything's good there. And congratulations on his deal with Blue Wire, which is a really cool network that he had signed with recently. I don't think I publicly congratulated on that. So it's always good when a fellow podcaster does well. I'd like to hear that. Being the last show of 2021, which, it's been a heck of a year, so it's good saying farewell in a lot of ways, but, being the last show, I'd kind of like to do kind of a year-end wrap-up kind of thing, because, a lot happened in wrestling, and I can't come close to covering everything, but I can kind of go through the things that I enjoyed or stood out to me and was memorable to me. And some I'm happy happened. Most of them I'm happy. It stood out to me, like I said, things a lot of things did happen. So let's get right in it. And first thing that really stood out to me and that I remember from 2021 was CM Punk's debut at the First Dance on Rampage, August the 20th. We'd been hearing rumors, and we pretty much knew that he had signed with AEW, but it was still kind of up in the air and unsure. But you heard that Cult of Personality come out, and I was watching it live, and I didn't even hear the music hit. I just heard the crowd react and kind of instantly knew it was Punk. So that's one of my favorite wrestlers. I was hoping he'd eventually get back to wrestling, and he did, which makes me happy. Really cool. I'd always, like I said, always been a big fan of his, and especially it was kind of cool having a wrestler to identify with who was straight edge also, and living that lifestyle, and just kind of living the way that Punk does, and I'm he tried the UFC thing, and I'm not gonna begrudge him at all for that, because if an opportunity like that comes along, you gotta take it, and I don't blame him at all for working his butt off and trying to get into that, even though it was at kind of accelerated age, but still, if a giant opportunity like that comes along, you gotta grab it and make a boatload of money and try to compete at a sport that you love. I don't blame him at all. So a lot of people kind of degrade him for that, but I don't, not in the slightest. I applaud his effort in that, and even though he wasn't very successful, hey, he gave it a shot, but seeing him back was really cool, and it's already sparked some great feuds. His match with Darby Allin, the whole thing with any of especially now with MJF. Geez, listening to those two guys go at each other verbally has been great. So yeah, CM Punk debuting. Eddie Kingston also, the feud with him was unbelievable. I wish it went on longer, because they had some great promos between each other. And Kingston, he's going up against some of the best talkers in the business right now. Kingston, MJF, and then and the thing with Darby Allin to start off with was really cool, just because I knew they'd have good chemistry together, and they have some similar paths with the straight edge lifestyle and kind of the Punk attitude. So I think personally that made a real good first opponent for him. But but yeah, I think they're doing it right with the slow build and not really not giving him a shot right away, but because he's still obviously shaking off some of the ring rust, and there are times in there when he looks like he's a little blown up, and so 7 years out of the ring will do that to you. It's not an easy thing. People take that for granted, think you can just go in the way you can, but he's been able to do it, and he's been doing well, and he's been doing it smart. So seeing him debut on Rampage at the First Dance in Chicago was unbelievable. Right behind that would have been Bryan Danielson's debut at All Out. I mean, hearing the music hit at the very end, when we had already had some debuts on that show, it was because at the end you were kind of starting to wonder, is he going to debut? Is he not going to debut? And then when he comes out and does this thing and debuts, it was really cool. It built suspense right up to the end, which and it paid off. That was a great pay-per-view. That All Out was incredible, and that was definitely stood out to me as one of the defining moments of AEW, and probably the best pay-per-view of the year. I really think that was a great pay-per-view. And then the next one kind of relates to that too. Is happened at Winter is Coming was the Page versus Danielson draw, the 1 hour draw. Great match, exhausting match. It was kind of weird the way they booked it at the beginning of the show, but the match itself, you can't fault. I mean, a lot of people kind of talk about Adam Page's style and degrade it. I think it's great. I think his style is great. It's got that kind of brawling / technical, which is I've never quite seen before. It's really cool. I like it. I mean, it's kind of like a wrestler who knows what he's doing technically, but he's got the cowboy attitude. So I think it works out great. And I thought that was a great match. And both guys really gave it their everything and looked great in the ring. So, I mean, the only thing I question is where they positioned it within the show, which was kind of funny, having it the first match. That could have been disastrous. I was waiting for people to riot, to tell you the truth, but I can't fault the match itself. The match was great. And then, previous to that, actually, November 13th at Full Gear, Page winning the title finally after that slow build with the booking between him and Kenny Omega. I thought that was a great payoff, and they didn't hotshot it, they didn't rush it, they let it go its course and took their time. So I really like that, and I like Adam Page. I'd like to see him on more, and I'd like to see him cut some more promos and kind of develop his promo ability a little bit more. But I like the feud between him and Omega and how it was a slow burn and slow build. It's something that AEW needs to do a little bit more. My only problem now is they need to have Adam Page on more because he is the champion. So that's my main complaint. I'd like to see what they further do with the Bryan Danielson feud between him and hopefully that builds up to another match down the road. But I hope they don't hotshot that, and I hope they don't rush that. So, but yeah, here's looking to that. Another real defining moment for AEW to me was the Britt Baker versus Thunder Rosa match. My wife and I were fans of Thunder Rosa when she was in NWA, and when she debuted on AEW, that was really, we popped big time for that. We marked out for that because seeing her on a national television and seeing her on a much wider stage, a much bigger stage, I should say, made us real happy because she deserves it, and she's one of the best female wrestlers out there, and we were real happy to see that. And the match that the unsanctioned lights out match that she put on with Britt Baker was great. I mean, it wasn't the greatest technical match, but the match itself told an awesome story. And it did what was designed to do, which was make Britt Baker this massive star. And she has become an incredible massive star since then, and become the face of AEW's women division, being the champion and going through that. That was kind of her. I mean, I've seen the T-shirts, I've seen the memes. I mean, that was really her Austin defining moment. Like when Steve Austin was put into the sharpshooter with the crimson mask and the blood dripping down, and didn't give up and just passed out. I mean, that was that was in some ways comparable to Britt Baker in some ways, because she really put on a show and really showed that she was willing to sacrifice for her sport and do what she had to do. So I mean that was great right there, and that was a defining moment of 2021 for me, and another one just happened just recently in Greensboro, North Carolina, the Sting, CM Punk, Darby Allin versus RTF and MJF. Seeing CM Punk pay tribute with the surfer style paint was really cool, and then seeing the incredibly detailed face paint that Sting had with the CM Punk with the crossed hands and the straight edge X's on his hands was just a really cool moment. I mean, the match itself wasn't anything amazing, but it was fully entertaining, and it just gave you another one of those moments that you're going to remember for a very long time. It's not going to be a 5-star match by any means, but it was fun. It was great. Seeing CM Punk pay tribute. Seeing Sting kind of passing the torch to him, paying tribute, and having Darby Allin the next generation there, and kind of one of the cornerstones of AEW, one of the pillars, was tremendous. And then seeing that happen against RTF and MJF was really, really a cool moment. There was one terrifying moment in there. I shouldn't say one. There were actually a couple terrifying moments. There was one where MJF landed on his head after Sting threw him out of the ring. Luckily, I think I don't remember exactly whether it was Dax or whoever caught him. Really, I mean, there are a couple of people at possible fault there. I think Sting could have been a little less zealous with his throw. I think because he kind of over rotated, but I'm not gonna put the blame on Sting, and they could have done a little bit better job of catching him, because he kind of over rotated coming out of the ring and then landed right on his head. But it appears as if MJF is fine. I'm really grateful for that. Thank God for that. But yeah, that was a really kind of a mark out moment, really defining moment for 2021 to me. WWE having live crowds again in July. The Friday Night SmackDown first episode with live crowds. I mean, that was a defining moment in 2021. That was really cool to see people up and about and attending live events again. That's something that's huge for wrestling, and huge for WWE, and just to be able to have live events with actual people instead of television screens propped up in the monitors, propped up in the stadium. So that was definitely a defining moment in 2021 for me, which being able to see people again. I mean, AEW had done kind of their thing up until that moment. They really did it well, and I applaud them for that. But especially when they initially just had the wrestlers out, and then they started incorporating crowds a little bit more, and then they did a good job of that all along. But then when WWE started returning, the big dogs started returning people there. That was definitely when things started turning around a little bit for live events and for live sporting events and whatnot. I mean, another event that stood out to me in 2021 was Ring of Honor's Final Battle. It happened on the 11th of December. I mean, seeing Braun Strowman, seeing RTF, FTR, I should say. Wow, I've been saying RTF, I think, the whole time. FTR, wow. I apologize for that. FTR showing up and seeing the vignettes paying tribute. That was definitely a really cool moment. I mean, it's sad. It's sort of melancholy because Ring of Honor, in my opinion, meant a lot to wrestling history. I mean, Ring of Honor will somehow be in some new incarnation, but what it will be, we have no idea. So it really felt like a farewell and a send-off, and I don't know if that's the case or not, but we shall see. I mean, they did release all of their wrestlers from contract, so it kind of feels like a farewell. It kind of feels that way, and they allowed with the different vignettes, pre-recorded vignettes from various people from various promotions. So that's definitely was a standout moment for me for 2021. I mean, another one that me personally I enjoyed was Malachi Black's debut on the 7th, because we didn't know that his non-compete clause was up. We didn't realize that it was only 30 days as opposed to 90. So when he showed up after posting a really great vignette online on his YouTube page, then to see him show up, I believe it was the following day on AEW or somewhere around there, was incredible. I'm a huge fan of his, and hopefully he'll be able to do some of the things that he couldn't do under the confines of PG television. This is going to allow him a much more free, kind of a bigger canvas to work with, so a much freer reign on his character. So I think that's going to be really interesting. Unfortunately, he had to go through Cody Rhodes, which I don't know what they're doing with Cody Rhodes now, because he's getting booed, and they just gave the TNT title back to him. So I have no idea what's going to happen with that. That's just if they don't start turning him heel, I think they're going to have a tremendous problem on their hands. But getting back to Malachi Black, yeah, I'm really looking forward to the whole House of Black deal, and seeing what he comes up creatively with. I think that's going to be down the road. That's going to be really cool, I think. Another thing that's once again getting back to All Out, the Ruby Soho debut, hearing her music hit and people instantly recognizing it, and knowing who it was. I mean, she's a much bigger star in AEW than WWE, and she's one of those people I felt was always underutilized in WWE. And seeing her go to AEW was really made me happy. I mean, that's some of the moments that stood out for me in 2021. I mean, there's a lot more, and there's a ton of things that are happening in wrestling, but those are ones that stood out to me. I mean, if I'd go with a wrestler of the year, man, I'm gonna try to do this on the spot off the top of my head. I mean, I know it's gonna sound weird, but if I did this go with an overall wrestler of the year, it would be close between like Kenny Omega and Roman Reigns, to tell you the truth. And I'm not a big Roman Reigns fan, but I think he's revived and revitalized his career at this stage. Teaming with Paul Heyman, doing the whole head of the table bit, I should say, has done wonders for him. I think they should have turned him heel years and years ago, because I think this is the part he was meant to play. I mean, do I think he's the greatest wrestler in the world? No, but he gets ratings and people tune in to watch him, so you can't argue with that, And when he gets teamed up against better wrestlers, he does do his part and put on a good show. I mean, so, he looks like $1,000,000, and he's got a lot better on the mic than he used to be. So, I mean, he's one of the most improved wrestlers, and like I said, I mean, this fits his personality, and this is the way they should have gone a long time ago. So, I mean, when you combine that, with, like I said, with the Paul Heyman, the whole Usos, that's a hard argument right there to make for, Wrestler of the Year. And the only reason I say Kenny Omega is because at one point in time, he held the Impact, AAA, AEW, and I think was he holding one of the New Japan belts or something? I mean, the guy was a champion everywhere. So you really can't argue with that. I mean, you could say, hey, he does have some shortcomings and some flaws. I mean, he does kind of over-rely on making things a spot fest. I'm hoping that as time goes on, he grows up and matures as a wrestler. He's gonna kind of like AJ Styles did and learned. He's gonna have to incorporate more mat wrestling and more pacing and more storytelling into his style. I kind of, as much as I hate to admit it, I kind of like the whole thing with him with the Young Bucks and the Good Brothers and the whole Don Callis thing. I kind of enjoyed it. I mean, when Don Callis was talking for him, I enjoyed it. And then he would just interject little things, because Omega can come off kind of goofy at times, but when he has those other people around to kind of rein him in, it helps out tremendously. Especially with Callis, he really emerged out of nowhere to kind of put on become a great manager and put on a good show. So I mean, for those two right there, kind of have to be in discussion of Wrestler of the Year if I'm gonna go that route. I mean, and AEW, wow, it's hard to decide on a Wrestler of the Year, but he would probably have to be it. Because there's a lot of people in that mix that you could kind of throw into things, and man, that's a tough call. It's not like if you look at some other promotions, like you look at NWA for instance, you guys say Nick Aldis because he carried the banner for so long and did such a great job. But you look at AEW, it gets a lot muddier because there are a lot of guys that are doing a lot of great stuff there. So, but yeah, you kind of have to put Kenny Omega into that discussion at the very top. I mean, for women's wrestlers, off the top of my head, I mean, for WWE, I'd have to say Charlotte Flair has to be the standout because she carried the banner while Becky Lynch was gone. She did a great job of it and helped out. I think was it this year she went down and helped out NXT. I mean, it was just she carried that women's division a lot. And then I mean in AEW, it's kind of a toss up between I'd say Britt Baker has the edge, but Thunder Rosa definitely helped put a lot of people on the map too. So I mean, she's got me in that discussion. Britt is just kind of a tiny bit above because she's in a position being booked to be a tiny bit above right now. But I think if you put the belt on Thunder Rosa, she'd be equally as impressive, if not more, because she's a better wrestler, quite frankly, and she can do a lot. She was down here in Memphis not too long ago, and people love her. She needs to be highlighted a lot more, and hopefully they'll put that TBS belt on her to showcase her even more because she's kind of being, man, I don't want to say she's being underutilized, but I think they need to put her on TV more. I really do, because I think she could help out that women's division. She already has helped out that women's division. That women's division has improved exponentially since the debut of AEW. that's and it's because of partially a great part, I think, because of her, because she's helped make some stars in there. You know, and Serena Deeb has helped out tremendously too. You know, and those are two people from NWA that came over that just done absolute wonders for the AEW Women's Division, because initially that division was extremely weak on the premiere of AEW, and that was something they were seriously lacking, and they should have trolled the independents a lot more than they did, and I don't know what they were thinking when they debuted with some of that, and then ended up putting the belt on Rio, which heck of a wrestler, but man, it's hard to watch somebody that size go up against people like Nyla Rose and be convinced and have a suspension of disbelief. You know, you're looking at her going, how in the world could she ever face off against much bigger, stronger wrestlers? I mean, it worked for a little while, but not really. I mean, she was green herself, and she didn't know how to handle television either. I mean, she'd be looking in the wrong camera after a match, so couldn't find her own camera. So it was the women's division AEW has increased in quality exponentially, and that's, well, like I said, that's one of those things that's happened because of the influx of some of the talent they've added. You know, people like Ruby Soho, Thunder Rosa, Serena Deeb. You know, that's increased things very much. So, you know, those are kind of my picks and my thoughts on the year of 2021 wrestling. I'm not sure. I mean, there are tons of other events that have kind of made their mark and changed the course of wrestling in 2021, but those are ones that personally stayed with me and rung out to me and affected me personally, and kind of I enjoyed personally a lot of the stuff I mentioned. So there's ones that changed the course of wrestling for me, and that, like I said, there's a ton more, because 2021 was a busy year for wrestling. But here's looking at 2022. Hopefully things get a lot better. Hopefully everyone stays safe. We're going to start to wrap things up. But before I do, I'd like to give a shout out to some people. Give a shout out to Lucky Lady Candles. Look them up on Facebook and on Etsy. And once again, I've personally used their product. It's really cool. Some really cool candles, handmade. You know, help out some local local small business owners in Western Tennessee. So look them up. You know, I'd like to also give a shout out to Then and Now Flea Market, where you can go and purchase one of my CDs there, and you can purchase some other merchandise that we've got for sale there too. Pretty soon, hopefully, I can get some Crushing Kayfabe merch out there. I'm looking at possibly doing some screen printing in the future here. I've got a lot of the equipment I need to do it with, but I've got to fine tune things and get that going. So hopefully I can print up some Crushing Kayfabe merchandise. But in the meantime, if you want merchandise from Crushing Kayfabe, go to the website and click on the shop, and that'll bring you to our Cafe Press website, our Cafe Press store, and that will you can buy some shirts there. You can buy some various Crushing Kayfabe related merchandise. And the website for us is crushingkayfabe.com. Crushing with a K. So crushingkayfabe.com. You can go there. And my website is jaygerr.com. JAYGERR.com. And you can send me messages through there. You can listen to some music and see where I'll be performing next, and that would be great. Check those websites out. And once again, getting back to Then and Now in downtown Trenton, Tennessee, check them out. Like I say, you can get some of our merchandise, some of the merchandise that my wife, some crafts that she's personally made, handmade herself. You can purchase those at our booth down there, and you can purchase a ton of other great locally made merchandise or some new merchandise that's there. So you can pretty much get everything down there. I mean, and tell them that Crushing Kayfabe sent you. All right. And let's see. Definitely check out Jimmy Rave's GoFundMe. His family has put up a GoFundMe to cover expenses associated with his death, the funeral costs and whatnot. So go there, go check out GoFundMe. Do search for the Jimmy Rave, and there should be I believe it's his daughter's posted the account on there, created a page on there, I should say. So check that out, and if you got any money, feel free to help them out, because it's a very sad situation with them, and a guy who contributed a lot to wrestling and the treatment of substance abuse too. He had set up a clinic and whatnot, and was a triple amputee. And unfortunately, I don't know the details. I don't know if they've been released yet, but he lost his life in December. So yeah, if you can help them out, that would be awesome. And aside from that, hope everybody had a great holiday. Here's looking forward to New Year's. Everybody have a safe, happy New Year's Day, New Year's Eve, and God bless. And tune in next week. Thank you so much. Goodbye.